Hello everyone, my name is Michelle. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It's Friday morning and there is frost on the ground. At least there's no snow, but it is chilly. So I'm back to the gloves weather. What I want to talk about in this video is Ali, H, unreliable witnesses, and also I want to show you some photographs that someone in my Facebook group took of Ben Hill Road. We're going to be covering some theories. Might get a little bit long. Hopefully it will be a useful video to you. Come here. Person with a dog. Let's let them go past before we continue. Alright, so they've gone that way. You can't see them because of the rising sun. Last night, Crime Stories Obsessed, Emma, and Kat from, I never remember her channel name, Crime Chats and Coffee, or something along those lines. Anyway, they interviewed some neighbours of Ali, and it was interesting. It just reinforces to me just how unreliable as witnesses people like Ali, Leslie, even H are. That's why I want to talk about it. I'm not going to dissect the conversation. It's just a good reminder that the things that they're saying, the claims that they're making, take them with a grain of salt. It doesn't mean to say that there's no truth whatsoever in what they're saying. But when you have, when you have embellishments and half-truths in alongside the truth, and then some possibly downright lies, that's a problem. But it's not just a problem for us in the YouTube community who are, behaving like web sleuths. We're here for our own curiosity, aren't we? We're here to try and find some answers. But ultimately, justice is not served on YouTube. So it's a timely reminder. I said this recently in a video, actually. It's a timely reminder just about how problematic unreliable witnesses are for the criminal justice system. Because at some point in the future, if true justice is going to be served for Summer Wells, then it'll most likely go to a jury trial, unless someone confesses, gives themselves in and pleads guilty. But given what we know about all of these players concerned in the Summer Wells case, how likely is it that someone's just going to confess and plead guilty? 9.5 months down the line, I'm not sure that that's going to be a thing. We're not seeing Chris Watts here. Like, as soon as he fails his polygraph and Agent Tammy Lee gives him a bit of a hard time and some wake-up calls, he confesses. At least he confesses in part. And it's done, dusted, wrapped up. While the discovery files, there's so many gaps in them. If you've ever read the 1,040-page discovery, as I have, cover to cover numerous times, you'll notice how many gaps there are in this investigation. But Agent Tammy Lee was, I think that this quote's credited to her, but she said we were just told to stop, and it was, we're not done. We're not done. And you can tell that in the discovery. The case was all done and dusted, wrapped up with a nice neat bow on it because Chris Watts pled guilty. So we're not seeing that. We're not going to see that in the Summer Wells case. That's obviously best case scenario, but I don't think it's going to happen that someone's just going to come forward and confess. Do you? No, I don't think so either. If true justice is ever going to be served for Summer Wells, someone is caught, arrested, charged, and it goes to a jury trial. These people, Ali, H, Leslie. Maybe not Jose, because he wasn't there. He hadn't been there for 8 months, so I don't really see what he would bring to a jury trial. There'd be neighbours, so there'd be Jodie Sue, Fred Hill. These neighbours of Ali were out on their porch, and Ali, very close neighbour, was also out on her porch. There was like a slanging match going on. Some of the things that those neighbours said about what's been said in their community, that they've wanted to come forward because they know Ali's lying, is very telling. Now, we've got to temper that with an obvious retort in that, are these neighbours telling the truth? They obviously know Ali. They live very close to Ali. And maybe they don't like her. Maybe they don't like the circus that they've brought to their particular little community in Kingsport. So they're going to embellish. They're going to do exactly the same, perhaps, as what Ali's doing to Candice. So all of this information, it's interesting, and it probably is telling, but it's telling for a different reason than picking their interview apart and saying, oh, Ali said this and it's not true because the neighbours said so. Or this is what really happened with H. Because we get into the same situation as we do if we try to pick apart what Ali said about Candice. That we don't know how much of it is absolute truth. Just like I'm sure Ali's embellishing, telling half-truths and even some downright lies about Candice because she doesn't like her. So the overall exercise of Ali's neighbours speaking out is useful, it's interesting, but Ali isn't on trial here. No one's on trial here, right? The court of YouTube is a very dangerous place. You know, people go real life. People's real lives are being seriously affected by what's going on social media. I mean, we've seen that recently with Jose and the problems he's had since coming out speaking. But it's useful, as I said, as a reminder that none of these witnesses are reliable because we don't know what is truth and what isn't. And I think just hearing from the perspective of the neighbours, we get a sense of that. I don't agree with the theories that have been put forward that it was Ali in the car in Grandma's truck on the 15th of June, that it's Ali's voice that you hear on that accidental video, or it's Leslie's voice that you hear, which would say then that, well, they were there at Ben Hill Road. No. That was Grandma's voice. I mean, look, guys, where would they all be sitting in that truck? How big is that truck? If there was Candice, Grandma, Summer, we don't see anyone else in the back seat, we get a good shot of the back seat, and no, it's not H's arm in the back of the truck there. It's a piece of wood or something rolled up. So where would they all be sitting? They'd all have to be sitting in the front, in the car. We've got Candice driving, Grandma, Ali, H. Come on now. Some of the things that Ali's been saying on Andrew Hilt's channel is different than what she told Chris McDonough. So now apparently, you know, H had a doctor's appointment and then he went to the park with his girlfriend. There was some misunderstanding in Emma and Kat's stream that they said the neighbours saw Ali at the ball field, and she did say she went to the ball field. H was at a different park than that. So just because the neighbours didn't see him at the ball field on the evening of the 15th doesn't mean anything because he wasn't there. But I'm sure that law enforcement have got that part of the story reasonably clear, because if he did have a doctor's appointment, then that's easy to, you know, that's a very clear and easy alibi to to find for law enforcement. But if he's at a park, then he's there at the park and his phone will ping there. There'll be witnesses. I think they can clarify. I think they will have clarified. You know, if I go out on a limb and say this, because I'm 99.999% sure that H would have been cleared based on his phone data. You know, they took H's phone. Why did they keep H's phone? Is interesting. Does that relate to not Summer's disappearance, but any potential relationship read child abuse between H and Candice? That could be why they've kept H's phone, because that's another case. But that remains to be seen. I don't talk about that much on this channel because H is a minor. So anything that happened between Candice and H is child abuse and should be treated as such in the criminal justice system. Something interesting that the neighbours said. Again, we can't confirm this. This is hearsay. Ali said that Candice had said, you see, this is Chinese whispers. Candice knew that Summer was dead and she'd come home in spirit. So this is something that Ali's claimed to have said, which is bizarre. If it's true, we've no way of knowing if it's true. The neighbours are truthfully recalling what's been said. But is it Ali lying? Is it Ali trying to get Candice into trouble? This is the problem with kind of this side of the investigation. For investigation in relation to social media, lots of hearsay and no direct evidence. But we're all here discussing true crime. We have the right to discuss true crime. We have the right to theorise, put our speculations forward, but let's just be very careful what we're treating as evidence, because none of this is real evidence. Some of it might be true, some of it might find its way into a jury trial at some point in the future, but it will be only after it's been clarified and gone over and has supporting evidence with it. You know, like H wasn't there because his phone pinged in whichever park he was with his girlfriend. Ali wasn't there because her phone... I don't know whether her phone's been checked or whether it really needs to be. But Ali wasn't there, so they're not directly involved in Summer's disappearance. But the reason why, obviously, H would be called as a witness is because he was there part of the day, up to about 2:30. So his testimony would be called for, I believe. As I said in a recent video, I was a jury member in February into March 2020. It finished like 2 weeks before the nation went into a complete lockdown. we were only allowed out once a day. You weren't allowed to see anyone. You're allowed out once a day to exercise, go and get food, that kind of thing. So I spent my once a day exercise walking these paths. Because I've walked these paths for so many years. It was basically work online and a take your morning stroll. I was a bit paranoid. If I broke the rules and went out twice, I just didn't take my phone the second time. Who's going to be checking up? Anyway, I digress. Yeah, I was a jury member. I was the jury foreman. I was the one who, when the court clerk said, do you find the defendant guilty? Not guilty? Guilty. On two guys, father and son. But every witness that was called, and it was a lot of witnesses who were there, none of them actually witnessed the final blows that killed this elderly gentleman. But they were there immediately before. Some of them were there hours before. And they were called because it was all about ascertaining motive and ascertaining the behaviours of everybody concerned in the hours before, it became something that was a leading part of the prosecution to prove motive and to prove how senseless a killing it was. And I think the prosecution did a sterling job of getting that across to us, because it really was a needless murder. It was horrible. Ali and Leslie could be called because they FaceTimed with Candice after someone had gone missing, and Candice had rung H and he didn't answer, and then when she finally got hold of somebody, you know, connected to those people, and they finally believed it was true, because they know that Candice loses those kids. Candice gets drunk, Candice gets high, inattentive, whatever, and she loses her kids. H said that, Ali said that. What do they mean by losing the kids? Well, they go out and play and Candice doesn't know where they are. So they just thought this was another one of those situations. Why wouldn't you, if that's something that Candice does a lot and they've heard about such a lot? I really believe that little nugget of information is factual, because we've got other people who back that up, other people not connected with Ali and H. Like Don Sherfy Sr. said it, that the kids are all over the road. They have to stop their vehicles for them because they're running around in the road. So they FaceTimed with Candice, told Chris McDonough this, that they were speaking with Candice and she seemed like disinterested. She was just like playing with her hat. Well, that could have been because she was nervous. She didn't want to speak to the police. Maybe because she was panicked, distressed, nervous, scared of what was going to happen next, scared what Don was going to do, you know, because his precious little girl had gone on her watch, and we know he can be violent. Talked about that yesterday. The Real Don Wells, go and check it out. Some psychology in there about the dark triad. So hopefully people pick up on that video, because it's not a well-viewed video at the moment. Quite a bit of psychology in there. Talked about the dark triad. Listen to it, see what you think. So that's that. Those are the neighbours. No reason to disbelieve them, except that if they don't like Ali, if they just stick to the back teeth of, you know, Ali as a neighbour, then they could possibly embellish some things. You know, this investigation, I think there's so many problems with it. I mean, obviously we only know a small fraction of what law enforcement knows. But in terms of the witnesses, you know, witnesses and potential suspects speaking out on social media, that is a problem. Because, you know, if prosecution wants to bring certain witnesses forward, like H, Ali, you know, the defence in the cross-examination would have a field day. Let's show exhibit da-da-da-da-da, and really piece together a narrative that shows each one of these witnesses to have changed their story, to have lied. No, they're not under oath when they're talking on YouTube. Right, but the prosecution would have to persuade the jury that what they're saying here, now they're under oath, is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And all the nonsense that's gone on YouTube, well, that's just YouTube nonsense. But those little things, those little, what we call extra evidential factors, can be very important for juries. One of the main aims of the lawyers, the attorneys, on both sides, is managing jury perceptions. The perceptions of the jury, you know, who are human beings, they can be influenced by a whole lot of extra evidential factors. So factors that are not direct evidence. There's a wealth of psychological research on this. You know, if you want to go and check some of it out, type in Google Scholar, like, I don't know, jury perceptions or witness perceptions or something like that. You'll get a wealth of psychological journal articles on this, going back many years. This is one of the things that has been discussed in relation to forensic psychology, criminal justice, and related fields. That managing jury perceptions is a really important part and very difficult, because juries do pick up on a whole range of extra evidential factors. So a defence trying to discredit a witness can legitimately use things that they've said and essentially character assassinate them. Yeah, it's icy. She says she doesn't like it when it's icy. Nope. It's just over freezing point. Might be like 1 degree C or something. In my comments, some people who were in the UK, I think who are over more to the east, like Yorkshire, over that way east, the northeast of England, have had snow. We're a little bit protected in the west because our weather is usually a couple of degrees warmer. Our climate is a little bit wetter than over the east coast. There you go, bit of useless information for you. You get that in my videos, guys. Cold snap is because the wind has changed direction. I'm walking dead into the wind now. It's a north wind. North wind doth blow and we shall have snow. And what will the robin do then, poor thing? You don't realise how high you are because it's quite a subtle hill. You can't really see it very clearly on the camera. But when you look over there to the village and you can see the whole village, you realise how high this little part is. It just climbs subtly. Look at that view. But it means it's windy. I used to cycle a lot. When you cycle, you realise just how hilly this place is. You don't feel it when you're just subtly walking along very slowly. It's only when you put some energy into your exercise that you realise. Alright, 3, 2, 1, back in the room. So the second thing I want to talk about, you know, speaking of hills, let's talk about Ben Hill Road. And this, again, relates to how a trial might eventually play out. Because when I was a jury member on a murder trial, the prosecutor, Mr. Evans, spent a long time showing us maps, locations, buildings, and he said, all right, how is this relevant, showing us these maps? Well, of course it's relevant to get the lie of the land, to get a full appreciation of the environment in which the crime took place. And it really fed into things like positions of witnesses, both human witnesses and also electronic evidence, you know, CCTV surveillance cameras, that kind of thing, you know, and where the defendants went in the hours and then the minutes before the murder. It all became very, very important. So one of the first things that law enforcement would have done in the Summer Wells case is take detailed photographs of Ben Hill Road, the property, not just the house and the yard, but also all the surrounding, you know, the terrain. Let's say, for example, it was the family who eventually was taken to trial, was charged, arrested, and they tried to say, look, I'm not guilty because this is some unknown abductor. Then the prosecutor would most probably bring things like the steepness of the hill, and all of that would be called into question. These photos are in my Facebook group. If you're a member of my Facebook group, you'll be able to see these. This is someone who's been to Ben Hill Road and taken some photos from various vantage points. In a jury trial, you might get, for example, just showing a basic map. This is where the Wells live. This is where one of our witnesses that we're going to see later on in the trial lives, Jodie Sue. And then Fred Hill lives further down Ben Hill Road, etc. You get the lie of the land. But until you actually see the land, you don't appreciate the scope of the terrain. So the searchers are well aware of this because it was really difficult terrain to search. All of those weeks that they've spent there, bringing in teams of divers, of search dogs, cadaver dogs, drones, heat-seeking technology, helicopters, as well as extensive ground searches. Over 4.6 square miles in the first 13 days. But there's something that's, for a jury trial, I guess, more important than that. This looks really inhospitable to anybody who isn't well versed in going through that terrain. This one looks up to the Wells property from further up Ben Hill Road, from a little bit south of the Wells property. If an abductor looked at that property from Ben Hill Road, would you want to climb that to go and abduct a child? Probably not. And if Don and Candice ever found themselves on trial and tried to maintain this is a stranger abduction, you've got it all wrong, Your Honour. It was some stranger who came up and stole her from the basement or from our yard right under our noses. Are a jury really going to believe that? Do you believe that? It's possible, but how probable is it? You know, that hill looks pretty steep, and it is steep from that side of Ben Hill Road. What I'd really like someone to do, and if someone's up for the challenge, is to take some photographs. Now, don't go on anyone's land, don't get shot, but go as far down Ben Hill Road as your vehicle will allow and take photographs all the way down, because what I want to see is how far someone can drive down Ben Hill Road before it becomes just a track that perhaps only an ATV or a horse would be able to get down. Don't put yourself in danger in any way, shape or form. But I'd really like someone to do that, because I've never seen photographs other than on like Zillow and things like that. I've never seen any actual photographs as how far that hollow goes back. And likewise, Simpson Road. Now, we did see some footage of Simpson Road when the Heels on the Ground people were there. But just driving along Simpson Road and looking at how far along Simpson Road you can get, how close to Beach Creek Road you can get before you can't get any further. Those are the kind of things I'd really like to see. But that's just me. But looking from Ben Hill Road back to the Wells property, you see the steepness of that hill. I could climb it, but would I want to climb that hill to abduct a child? Not that I'd ever abduct a child, obviously, but it putting myself in the mindset of a potential abductor. Would I want to climb that hill and then try to get a child off that hill if I didn't know that terrain very well, and if I was rushing, I was trying my best not to get caught, just to get out of there? No, I wouldn't choose that child, would I? I'd choose an easier target, an easier victim. I think we can all see that, can't we? There's a less steep side of that hill, which you can see on Don Wells' video when he retraced his steps for Voices Behind the Wall. And you see that the side of the hill that goes down to the creek on what Don calls the bottom property, where that shed is, that's the shallow side. So if a stranger wanted to abduct your child, that's the easiest route for them to take, but it's open. You're more likely to get seen, right? So would you do it that way? Probably not. However, the terrain, just the lie of the land, it's useful, it's important, but the defence would come along and say, of course an abductor wouldn't do that. This is why I think Candice and Don have shot themselves in the foot, by continuing to say that Summer would never wander off. Because kids do go and play. Why wouldn't they go and play on their own property? I don't think a parent's going to be blamed if a kid wanders just a little way from home. Because think about it, not now from the abductor's point of view, but from Summer's point of view. Now bear in mind that these photos are taken when there's no leaves on the trees, but law enforcement will have taken photographs in the days, very short time after Summer disappeared. So you'd see the terrain as it was on the 15th of June. We're looking at it from, you know, this time of year when these trees are starting to bud, but you know, there's no leaves there. The Wells house, you wouldn't see it as clearly when there's leaves on the trees at all. But you still know that house is there. From Summer's point of view, if Summer went down the driveway and a little bit down Ben Hill Road, where this vehicle has stopped in this photograph, Summer knows where her house is. It's very close. From a 5-year-old's perspective, that's not going a long way from home. She could probably still make out that house even if the leaves are fully on the trees. That's why getting this perspective, I think, is really useful. Let's take another scenario. What if Don and Candice are innocent? What if there's evidence that law enforcement eventually brings forward that clears them? So who would be on trial? I would eat my hat, the hat that I've got on that one of my subscribers, Helen, made for me. I'd eat that hat, right, live on live stream, if it turns out that Summer was abducted by a stranger who literally picked her at random, who wasn't even local to the area. However, there's still an abduction scenario on the table, because if Summer just wandered a little bit away from her home, down onto Ben Hill or down to the creek, someone local to the area could easily take her without being seen or heard. We know how many registered sex offenders there are in that area. Loads of them. You can look up their names, their addresses, their mugshots. But for every registered SO there is in any local community, and there's some in my community, there are more that are not registered because they haven't been caught or they haven't been at least convicted. I spent a reasonable amount of time talking about someone called Don Sherfy Jr. If you want a reminder about who he is, then I've got a number of videos on him. I'm certainly going to do a video on him once he's been to court, because he's due in court at the beginning of April, be next week, sometime, for the 1,000+ images of Child P that he was found to have possessed. This guy's dad is Don Sherfy Sr. His girlfriend lives on Simpson Road. His girlfriend's mother or grandma, who she lives with, is the sister of William Good, who was Don's stepfather. So this family know each other very well. So much so that Don Sherfy Sr., when he was on Prayer Gardens channel, said that before the Wells went to the SDA church, to the Seventh-day Adventists, they used to go to a Baptist church that his girlfriend goes to, and Summer used to love her. Summer used to come and sit with her. So that family know Summer. Don Sherfy Jr. doesn't live there. But will he know that area? Yes. He's out on bond. Has he got an ankle tag? We think not. Could he have been there on the 15th of June? Would he easily have been able to stay hidden but spot the kids, spy a chance? One last hurrah before you go to prison for the 1,000+ images of Child P. If it's not Don Sherfy Jr., and I'm not saying it is, I'm just giving you a scenario, it could be someone else from that local area who knows that terrain very well, who knows those kids go out to play, who spied their chance. So what I'm saying here is there's a lot of things to consider. There's a lot of players, there's a lot of potential. Law enforcement haven't told us very much, but that's usual, that's normal. Law enforcement are not going to tell you anything that is relevant to the open and active investigation. And that goes for any other case as well. So just bear that in mind. Anyway, I'm going to call it a day here. This has got quite long. It's been a really nice walk this morning, but I've got things to do, so I'm going to go home, edit you, get you uploaded. I'll see you very soon. Stop eating manure. Come on. Oh, they're going to pick the horse manure. No. Anyway, guys, it's goodbye from them two mingers. Goodbye from me. I've been Michelle. I hope you're well. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.